We bring in the man, Andrew Bailey, the Show Me State. He's been showing us what he's been doing since he took office. Andrew, good morning. Thanks for jumping back in with us, my friend. You look
Hey,
rested.
good morning. Thanks for having me on.
How the hell do you look rested? You do. You look good. You look rested.
Hey, man, justice never sleeps.
Oh, what a response.
That is a good answer, isn't it? That is really good.
Hey, what's got you really excited these days going on in the state? Because we could literally take a dart, throw it at the dartboard, hit something that you and your office is working on.
We're firing on all cylinders to protect Missourians' constitutional rights. I believe firmly that the Constitution was intended to protect us from the government. The Biden administration is attacking the Constitution, is attacking the rule of law, and attacking Missouri by basically having this attitude that they get to do whatever they want until someone tells them stop. And fine, game on. We will use the court system to tell them when to stop when they're violating the laws or violating the constitutional rights of Missourians. Certainly, we're going to fight to protect that. The First Amendment case that we've got pending right now in the United States District Court, we got a nationwide injunction that stops this coercion and collusion from the Biden administration to silence American voices on big tech social media platforms. That was really an important case. We've got to build a wall of separation between tech and state. The first brick of that wall was laid on July 4th. And what a great way to celebrate this nation's birthday than by restoring the First Amendment guarantee to free speech and protect core political speech. You know, the three problems with the speech that Biden silenced on big tech social media platforms.
Well,
Number one,
real quick, were they trying to, they were trying to get an injunction to stop this from moving forward yesterday, right? And
that's right.
And then they were blocked.
They were blocked by the district court. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has paused just long enough to allow us to get to oral argument on August 10th. So we're going to take the matter up in a 3-judge panel at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals on August 10th. But I'm confident in our success on the merits and keeping this injunction in place, keeping that wall of separation between tech and state. The three problems with the speech that Biden silenced on big tech social media platforms. Number one, it was illegal. This was core political speech. The court has found that based on the evidence we put on at our hearing back in May. Secondly, it was truthful speech. All the things that they say all the mis, dis, and malinformation they say they're protecting us from, it was actually all true. And third, it was exclusively conservative speech. Again, it's like he's weaponizing the federal government to silence any voice of opposition, which is the entire point of the First Amendment, to allow free marketplace of ideas uninhibited from government censorship. So this is the most important First Amendment case in a generation. We will keep fighting that case, and I'm looking forward to getting back into court on August 10th to litigate this further at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. And I think eventually we end up at the United States Supreme Court.
Yeah, I see it going there as well. No doubt in my mind from that standpoint. When it comes to everything that's going on, when you're out and about talking to people, what are you hearing from people around the state that they want you to work on the most, or something that they're very excited about that they see? We know that you're not always going to have victories right and left, but there are victories in certain things that you have to work on that people are telling you.
Yeah, look, the Kim Gardner issue in St. Louis was such a critical issue, and I think people are excited that we were bold.
They are
courageous on that, and we got her out of there and have restored the rule of law and justice for victims in St. Louis. That was a huge win for the people of the city of St. Louis and for honestly the entire region in the state. She was an inhibitor to all kinds of economic development and other issues. So that was a huge win. People are really excited about that one. People are concerned about federal overreach right now. They see Joe Biden's administration as attacking our way of life, attacking our system of government, attacking the rule of law, and most importantly, attacking our constitutional rights. And we have multiple pieces of litigation, multiple lawsuits right now that we have pending against the Biden administration to fight back against that. And we're doing it on all fronts. Look, Joe Biden wants to use an army of bureaucrats to tell us what we can drive, which bathrooms we can use, that we can't have gas stoves, that we can't use our property without the EPA giving us authority to. It's ridiculous. And so we've got to keep fighting back. Another huge win recently was on the student loan repayment case at the United Supreme Court. That happened a few weeks back. And I got to sit at counsel table and represent the state of Missouri at the United States Supreme Court on that case. And as someone who went to college on an Army scholarship and then law school on the post 9/11 GI Bill, that one was personal for me. And I paid for my college in blood, sweat, and tears and service to my nation. It was a privilege to get to do that. But we're not going to let Joe Biden saddle working Missouri families with Ivy League debt. And so that was a huge win to restore the constitutional balance. It's the Congress has the authority to appropriate money, not the president. And the statute he was using did not authorize him to transfer $500 billion in debt. And so it was a rule of law issue as well. Huge win at the United States Supreme Court on that issue.
My daughter, Heather Hicks, works in your St. Louis office, and she is highly impressed with how quick you've come in here and started to clean up St. Louis. You are really working for the citizens, both left and right. And everyone that I'm walking to and talking to, they like your gusto. That's the word I'm hearing, that you came in, you didn't wait, you just came in and came out with all cylinders firing.
I greatly appreciate that. Appreciate her service to the state of Missouri and support. And you saying that. Look, when I was in the Army, I was an armor officer, so I was trained on tanks. And you go to the George S.
Wow.
Patton Armor School, and you learn the fundamentals of the offense. In armored warfare, you always want to be shooting, moving, and communicating, and constantly staying on offense. And one of the fundamentals of the offense is audacity, and that's always stuck with me. And so that's how I litigate cases. That's how I manage, and we're going to keep fighting. You can't slow down. You can't give up. You can't take a pause. You got to keep pushing forward. It throws the enemy off balance when you can keep driving forward and outpace your enemy. And I think that's really important in today's fight.
We're talking with Andrew Bailey, Missouri's Attorney General, came out of the gate swinging, super success so far in the Show Me State. When it comes to our veterans in the state of Missouri, and it's such a difficult situation to talk about, at least in my opinion, because we hear certain stories about veterans not being taken care of in certain parts of the country. In Missouri, we had a question where one person was curious if you've gotten any reports of maybe veterans not being taken care of how they should be being taken care of in hospitals, in situations in the state of Missouri. Has any of that gotten to you right now, and your thoughts about that subject from a legal standpoint?
Yeah, look, we've got to take care of our veterans. There are certain benefit programs in place that have been earned, again, through blood, sweat, and tears and service to the nation. And we owe that debt of gratitude to our veterans. And so we're always going to fight to protect veterans and make sure they have access to the services they need, and certainly to the health care they need. One of the concerns we have is with the weaponization of the federal government in the culture war fight. And for instance, when the VA starts focusing on things like trying to get around state law as it relates to abortion or other topics, instead of providing healthcare to veterans, that I'm going to be upset about that. And we're going to take the fight to the enemy on that. Because again, the VA is there to serve veterans, not push Joe Biden and his army of bureaucrats culture war left-wing agenda.
We're talking with Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Another question. Years ago, we know that China has purchased farmland all over the country. They have. They were allowed to do it. I'm not up to date if that's still happening or not. Some of that land was purchased, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the state of Missouri. If that is the case, Andrew, is there anything that can be done about that to take away a sale, buy back, anything of that nature to keep China out?
Yeah, we've got to keep the enemies of the United States away from out of the state of Missouri and away from buying up property in the state of Missouri. It's probably, I know there was a bill that was moving through the General Assembly this year. I don't think it got across the finish line. So we need to lean into that and make sure that happens. Other states have done this successfully. And I have deep concerns about President Biden's unwillingness to protect our national sovereignty and our national security. Look at the Chinese spy balloon incident. That balloon was allowed to pass across the United States of America and focus on Missouri. It stopped in Missouri and focused on military installations in the state of Missouri. And Joe Biden shot it down after it already completed its mission. Thanks for nothing. So look, if we know the president's not willing to secure the southern border from what amounts to nothing short of an invasion, a migrant invasion. And so if he's not going to protect America's national security and our sovereignty, we're going to have to find tools and resources to do it on the home front, and updated legislation that empowers the state of Missouri to protect ourselves from a foreign enemy like the Chinese Communist Party is going to be really critical.
What about the immigration standpoint, illegal immigration? Because we talked to you a little bit about this last time you were on. There's a man named John Rourke, 16-year Army veteran. He runs a company called Operation Cleanup. He's at the border cleaning up all the trash that's left behind, and he's been there 11 times in 2.5 years already. So he works the border. We're going to go down with him and get video sometime just to show what is actually happening. He said, I promise you've got all kinds of illegal immigrants coming into Missouri, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you hear something like that, how do you respond to that?
Look, this is a crisis. President Trump had the same laws on the books that President Biden has. The immigration laws haven't changed much in the last 20, 30 years. And so President Biden was able to use the tools at his disposal to reduce border crossings by more than 90%. And yet Biden comes in and opens the floodgates, and nothing short of a migrant invasion, and it's making Missouri less safe. We know fentanyl is flooding across the border. There's human trafficking. This is a crisis of epic proportion. We've got multiple lawsuits pending against President Biden right now. One of them is to force him to build the border wall, complete the border wall that Congress appropriated money for. And we got a huge win at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that reinstated that lawsuit, and we're continuing to fight that out. We're not going to let President Biden pervert the immigration code to naturalize or to allow in criminal aliens. And that's exactly what he's doing. And my problem with the whole thing is every time the DHS secretary testifies in Congress, he tries to tell Congress that, oh, there's not a problem, where there is no border crisis, there is no illegal crossing. I mean, at what point does Congress look to impeach this individual for lying to Congress? Because we can see it with our own eyes. And here's the other problem. If you watch the news coverage of this, a lot of the people that are flooding across the border, it's not like they're showing up here in tattered clothing on rafts that are about to sink. Many of them have cell phones that are nicer than mine. Like these folks are just here to take advantage of a situation. They're not doing this the right way. We have laws on the books. Joe Biden just needs to use the laws on the books. And so we're going to use the laws at our disposal to try to force his hand and try to protect Missourians from this crisis.
Talking about protecting Missourians from a crisis and all people in the state of Missouri, I did see that you and the Kansas Attorney General have threatened lawsuits against any Fortune 100 companies that continue to use or threaten to use any sort of, I guess, DEI agendas in their hiring. Can you update people on what forced you into that situation?
Yeah, the best way to end racial discrimination in the United States of America is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. Let's look at the content of people's character and their merit rather than the color of their skin. And that's been the promise of the 14th Amendment since its inception after the Civil War. That's certainly what Dr. Martin Luther King fought for. That's what the Supreme Court reaffirmed most recently in the affirmative action case. In fact, the quote to end racial discrimination, stop discriminating based on race, is a direct quote from the United States Supreme Court. And so that's what that letter's all about. These companies need to understand that they need to put profits first and keep a free, fair, and open market. And the best way to stop this is to advance people based on merit, not based on the color of their skin.
From our viewer, just wanted us to tell you, you're a force, Mr. Bailey. Keep it up. We appreciate it. Also, at the same point in time, this is a massive, I don't know if you can get into this. It's just one of those questions where you could do an all-day seminar on it. Is there any quick way to talk about to reform the welfare system in the state of Missouri from a legal standpoint?
That is a very good question. And you're right. It's a big question. I think it actually is a thread that we need to pull on and look at a little bit differently. There is a system of cooperative federalism that was implemented in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And essentially what it is, there's federally funded programs that are administered by the state. So the 10th Amendment says that the federal government only, any powers not explicitly given to the federal government and not prohibited to the states are reserved by the states and the people of the states. And from that 10th Amendment, you get the anti-commandeering doctrine. Essentially, the federal government can't coerce the state to carry out federal programs. So what they do is cooperative federalism. And so what they say is, hey, look, we're going to have all this money. You can access this money if you want, if you administer the program, but you got to do it by our rules. That worked for several years. The problem is it has stopped working because, again, President Biden has weaponized federal bureaucratic agencies to fight a culture war. So now it's not just that we're getting a hand up from federal programs, is that it comes with a price tag. And the price tag is indoctrination into woke left-wing ideology. And at some point, the people of the state of Missouri are going to have to say, is it worth it anymore? And I think there's all sorts of federal programs that have been weaponized and federal bureaucratic agencies that have been used to push a woke left-wing ideology instead of fulfilling their original intent. And at some point, we cross the threshold from cooperative federalism into the prohibited anti-commandeering doctrine.
Dude, Andrew Bailey, Missouri Attorney General, do you get days off?
That's a very good question. I eat, breathe, sleep this job. I care about the people of the state of Missouri and our constitutional rights and our system of government. I've got 4 small children, 10, 9, 5, and 1.
I hope you get to see them every now and then, Andrew.
I do. Yeah, I've spent the 4th of July reading a 155-page preliminary injunction from the district court on the First Amendment case and flipping burgers on the grill. But it's good. I want my kids to grow up in a country in a state where we're still free to think, speak, and act and be safe from criminal attack. And these are basic foundational principles that our country was founded upon. We are stewards of a legacy of freedom, and it is incumbent upon us to hand that legacy off to the next generation intact. We can't take steps backwards. And that's why I dedicate so much time and energy to this position.
I found this very interesting. A few weeks back, you were in DC. I can't remember why you were there, but you posted a picture, and I think Missourians may get a kick out of this. You and Josh Hawley together, and the picture simply said, My law professor. So Josh Hawley was your law professor at the University of Missouri?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I took two of Professor Josh Hawley's classes, and then I took one of his wife, Erin Hawley's ag law class. So I am well trained in the law by the professors Hawley, and certainly owe them a debt of gratitude and appreciate their mentorship. And they were such great professors. And oh my goodness, we're so lucky to have Senator Hawley in Washington, D.C., fighting the good fight on our behalf. And I certainly look up to his wife. And if you look at the work that she does, oh my gosh, she is a force to be reckoned with in the courtroom, and her advocacy on some really critical constitutional law issues have moved this country in a better direction from a legal perspective in the past few years. So her work is extremely commendable as well.
Damn, if there was a sitcom that was based upon you two, you guys could play yourselves. You look like Hollywood actors in that picture, man. I mean,
No, he's much sharper, much more sharp looking than I am. I'll take a back seat for sure.
No, I'm just saying that's a damn good picture. And two University of Missouri law school guys making headways for the state of Missouri. That's for sure. Hey, before we let you go today, is there anything that Missourians need to be looking out for? Anything that we can help promote in regards to people needing to look forward to or letting your office know about?
Yeah, check us out at ago.mo.gov. That's ago.mo.gov. You can follow us on social media. Check out some of the work we're doing. We like to keep the public updated. I think one of my responsibilities is coming on shows like this and just explaining what we're working on and why we're doing it. And I think if you know a little bit about me, it explains why I'm so passionate about some of these issues. And so that's a great way to follow us. We've got some big stuff coming up this summer. Like I said, on August 10th, we'll be at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals arguing in this big tech social media case about censorship, trying to protect Missourians' right to free speech. We'll be litigating the Second Amendment Preservation Act at the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals this summer. We've got more work to do on the Gardner case. I want to publish a report that lays out everything that went wrong there and why it happened and what systems need to be put in place to prevent it from happening again. We can't just go relapse back to the status quo. We've got to keep pushing forward and making structural change to protect our constitutional rights and protect the Missourians. And so we're going to keep pushing forward. And those are three big ticket items that'll hit all this summer in the next 30, 60, 90 days.
Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey, we'll check in with you next month, man. We appreciate the time. We hope you enjoy it. And of course, our viewers and listeners are certainly being educated by everything that's going on. Seriously, though, good job so far. Thanks and good luck.
Very impressed. Very impressed. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate y'all. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Andrew Bailey. We've got that picture of him and Josh Hawley looking really good together.